France is once again at the center of global attention. Over recent weeks, its streets have been filled with massive demonstrations stretching from Paris to Marseille, from Lyon to Bordeaux. What began as discontent over economic policies has grown into a national movement, echoing a long tradition of resistance deeply rooted in French history. The immediate spark comes from rising living costs and controversial pension reforms. Prices of food, housing, and energy have soared, leaving families struggling to make ends meet. At the same time, the government has pushed reforms that extend retirement age, arguing they are necessary to stabilize the economy. For many, these changes feel like betrayal. Workers with decades of physical labor fear they will be forced to continue long after their bodies have worn out. Students see their future slipping away under mounting debt and limited opportunities. Pensioners, who believe they had already contributed enough, now worry their security is being stripped away. In Paris, tens of thousands fill wide boulevards, carrying banners reading Justice Social and Dignité pour tous. The sound of drums, whistles, and chants reverberates between centuries-old buildings. Red smoke from flares mixes with the crisp autumn air, turning the demonstrations into a sea of movement and color. There are moments of celebration. Brass bands play, students dance, and families march together, turning protest into a festival of unity. Yet, tension is never far away. As night falls, riot police form barricades, shields raised. Tear gas canisters crack open, sending protesters retreating through clouds of acrid smoke. Trash bins are overturned, shop windows shattered, and the mood shifts from determined to defiant.
Each protester carries a personal story. A factory worker from Lyon shouts over the noise, "I've worked with my hands for 30 years. My back hurts every day. And now they want me to work longer? We are not machines. We are human." In Paris, a university student adds, "We march because our future feels stolen. Everything is more expensive and opportunities shrink. If nothing changes, we inherit only debt." From Marseille, a retired teacher explains, "I gave my life to education. I raised generations of students. Now, instead of enjoying retirement, I must worry if my pension is enough to survive. It feels like betrayal." Together, these voices form a chorus of frustration. They are not just rejecting policy, they are demanding dignity. The government insists reforms are necessary to protect the economy in the long run. Officials appear on television warning that without changes, debt will spiral and the pension system will collapse. But for many, these arguments seem detached from daily realities. Political speeches cannot ease the pain of families choosing between heating their homes or buying groceries. The polished language of policy feels far removed from the struggle of ordinary people. A tradition of resistance. International media have taken note, but observers are not surprised. France has always been a nation of protest. From the storming of the Bastille in 1789 to the student uprisings of 1968, citizens have never hesitated to make their voices heard. For the French, protests are not just acts of defiance, they are expressions of democracy itself. They remind the government that power rests in the hands of the people, not in distant offices. Today's marchers see themselves as part of that tradition, inheriting a legacy of resistance and carrying it into the present. Nights of uncertainty. When darkness falls, city centers remain alive with chants, songs, and flickering lights of flares. In Lyon, young musicians play guitars on a corner and strangers join their chorus. In cafes near the protest routes, demonstrators gather to rest, debate, and plan their next moves. Yet the atmosphere is fragile. Public transport is disrupted, shops damaged, and uncertainty hangs in the air. For citizens not directly involved, life feels suspended, as if the whole country waits to see what comes next. What lies ahead? Unions and student groups promise the protests will continue. Cultural figures, writers, musicians, even actors have begun lending their voices, strengthening the movement's reach. The government faces a crossroads: compromise and adjust, or push forward and risk further escalation. The outcome remains unclear. What is certain, however, is that the protests have already changed the conversation. They have reminded people of their collective strength and their right to demand fairness. A message beyond France. The protests speak not only to France but to the wider world. They warn governments everywhere that when people feel ignored or mistreated, they will claim the streets as their stage. They remind us that democracy is not only about elections in parliaments but about the living voices of citizens. From the cobblestones of Paris to the ports of Marseille, from the industrial heart of Lyon to the vineyards of Bordeaux, the people of France continue to write their story of resistance. Their chants carry a simple, timeless message: dignity and justice are worth marching for. And whether or not policies change, one truth endures: in France, the voice of the people never fades.